Welcome back to another episode of the Color of People podcast. Last week I said we were going to talk about somebody close to me and how their illness has affected my life and the lives of the people around me. And so with that, I want to dedicate this episode to my father-in-law. My father-in-law, I called him Bud or Buddy. He was not feeling well last year around March or April. And he was just out of breath. They went in. And my wife told me that. I thought maybe he had COVID. And he tested negative for that. But they did blood work and they found that he actually had leukemia. It was tough. It was tough news. Tough news for us. He fought it, and he went through several rounds of chemo, and things looked pretty good. Looked like they were talking about a bone marrow transplant at that point. They found it elsewhere, and so they had to do radiation on that. And it just took too long. It came back in his bone marrow, and the doctor said there's nothing that they could really do. And so my wife got to see him. And, I know that was important to her. But I also know that it was important to him. They were really, really close. They're the same person. As neurotic of a mess as you can get in a loving way. On January 13th, I got a call from my wife after getting a text from my mother-in-law. I figured something was up, and my wife called me and told me that he was gone, and I felt so much pain. And, I felt relieved for him because I knew he wasn't suffering anymore. But I felt so much pain because, I know that he is everything and was everything for my wife. And he just means so much to my kids. And I knew that they would be hurting, and I had to be there for them. But I told you I'm a crier, so I'm going to cry. And I told my kids, look, you can be sad. You're supposed to be sad. It's your grandpa. And I think about the pain, especially my wife and my mother-in-law, of never being able to speak to him again. And I've known Bud as long as I can remember. Me and my wife grew up together, but I didn't really get to know him until I started dating my wife, and he was such a good man. He treated me like family, and he always made me feel comfortable. Even when he broke my balls, he always made me feel comfortable. And, I remember him from being younger. My brother played with my brother-in-law in baseball, and he was there. And this is when I got older, when I was a teenager, and I'd see him around the neighborhood. He had started to work out, and he got really big. And he did that. That's who he was. He loved going to the gym, and he loved doing that until he got sick. Here's this 60 plus year old man lifting, more than men half his age. He's always out to be the best. And his personality was just so infectious. When you walked into a room, you knew Bud was there. He was, he he had such an impact on my life. And, you know, I think about it and I know I'm going to miss him. And it's hard. It's so hard to say goodbye. And I tell my kids, if you close your eyes real tight, you can still talk to Grandpa. I did write something that I posted on social media. I said, a week ago, my father-in-law passed from his battle with leukemia. I am left with lasting memories of a man that I've known for my entire life. A man that welcomed me into his home and treated me like family. A man that I shared a common love with, his daughter. A man that has made me laugh more times than I can count. He was a great father who worked hard, a devoted husband for over 40 years, a brother, an uncle, a grandpa to 4 beautiful grandchildren that will miss him dearly. His presence was always felt. When you walked into a room, you knew Bud was there. He could make you feel like the most important person in the world sometimes. He was a dedicated man that cared deeply about his family. He was everything to my wife and kids. His legacy is what people hope to leave behind. Everybody felt like his friend because that's the man that Lewis was. He was and always will be a great man. I love you, Bud. I can hear his laugh. I can hear him grabbing my shoulder. Or we're just sharing a beer and having a laugh about life. I feel lucky to have been a part of it. And I just can't believe he's gone. He was such a neat freak. He wanted everything clean. And we played this game called Skip Bo. So you have 4 piles and a discard pile for yourself. And your object is to turn all those cards over and you win. But you got cards in your hand. He was just so focused on closing these piles out. So you'd put a 12 on it. And that would empty out that space and those cards would go away. He would do that before even going into his cards. And he'd always say, close it out, if he wanted someone else to close it out. I'd always have to hear him give me grief when the Giants weren't doing good. Or just anything, fantasy football, 2-time fantasy football champion. I still don't have a damn one. It's hard because it feels like he should be here. And he's not. How do we heal? How do we grieve? How do we deal with the pain? And I think you can't suppress it. Can't hold it in. And it's okay to let it out. And I say that. I tell my wife, you can be as sad as you want for as long as you want. And that's okay. It's okay. And she's going to be. This is the one person on this earth that just gets her. And he's no longer here. And I know that hurts. I'm glad that he got to go to the same hospital that Sultan did. And Sloan Kettering. I just wish it would have been a different result. The pain is still raw. It's still very raw. Even if you're prepared, you're only as prepared as you think you're going to be. And it's never easy. It's never easy to say goodbye to somebody you love. With that, I want to hear your stories. If you have a story about losing somebody or somebody overcoming this disease, send us an email. We'll try to read your story on here. If you don't get picked, it's not because you're not special or we don't feel a certain way about you. I promise. Again, if you want to help, if If you donate $1, gives you a chance to win a signed copy of The Color of People, my book. And if you don't win, you're doing good, because that money's going towards St. Jude's Children's Hospital, the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation, and Memorial Sloan Kettering. 3 organizations I firmly believe are in it to hopefully one day be rid of this damn disease. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you and talk to you, and we'll catch you next time on the Color of People podcast.